Hi there, this is James Thompson, host of Talk of the Town. I really appreciate you checking out this recording from our February 26th episode. This was a really special episode to me because I had the opportunity to interview Mr. George Dynin. He's an Athens resident and Holocaust survivor who recently published a book about his experiences during the Holocaust. It's called Aryan Papers. It's quite an engaging read. I highly recommend you go pick it up and read it yourself. I really enjoyed it, and he was gracious enough to come to the station and talk to me about it, so I really appreciated that. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the interview as much as I enjoyed conducting it, and here it is. So I wanted to start by just giving our listeners who haven't had the opportunity to read the book yet a little context. And so in the book, you talk about how you and your mother and your little sister avoided being captured by the Germans by posing as Polish aristocrats, Polish Christians. You had to flee your hometown, and make sure I'm saying this right, Łódź. Okay, Poland, yeah. The town where you grew up, where you were born, and traveled in through Lithuania and Belarus, if I'm correct. Yeah,
correct.
And you were able to avoid capture until the Soviets pushed the Germans back, and then you were able to move around more freely without that threat hanging over your head. So as I said, you posed as Polish aristocrats. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to pull that off.
In order to survive during this Nazi occupation, first you cannot show that you are Jewish, because this is automatically you're going to be killed. Mm-hmm. So I have this plus that I look very much like Poles, and same with my mother and my sister, and also I spoke very clear Polish language, and I'm very familiar with how they are living and with all of these details to be Pole. So I have this plus, I went to the Polish school, and this was very positive too, because you learn so many things exactly about your neighbors, Poles. Now, that's not enough. That's good to be looking like Pole, but also you need some documents.
So, thus the title.
That's true, yeah, you're right. So in order to have documents, we had a rather easy job, because if I change one letter in my last name, I started to be count. So
it went from Dynin to Dynin?
Dynin, yes.
Yeah.
The Y was eliminated, and I was in place. Dynin, D-Y-N-I-N, but I would say D-U-N-I-N. Mm-hmm. U. I put U in place of Y. And then automatically I started to be count.
And so instead of being looked at as Jews, you were now looked at as nobility by those around you. So whose idea was that?
The idea was as soon as Germans come, we figured out that we should change our names, So it was kind of common knowledge, mm-hmm. in our family, And not only this, but Dynins have been very famous Polish aristocrats.
Right. And in your book, I read that you, when you would meet new people under your new name, they would want to know what branch of that family you were from, and you had to kind of come up with something on the fly.
Yeah, Borkowski or Wąsowicz, something like this, So two branches of Dynins. We choose one. I don't remember exactly which one now, but we choose one. It was very successful.
Right. And as you mentioned, your physical appearance helped with that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you about a few specific parts of the book that I found especially compelling. When your family fled from Łódź, you ended up in Lithuania, Vilnius, right?
Well, it didn't go so fast like you said it.
Okay.
Eventually we...
Right.
We ended in...
with a lot of stops along the way.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. But when you did finally get to Vilnius, while you were there, your father was deported by the Soviets, who were at that time occupying Lithuania. You said in your book that you got to speak to him while he was on the train, and then you left and then came back and saw the train as it was leaving.
Yeah.
I have to think that would have been kind of a growing up moment. The end of childhood. This
is moments that you see only on movies,
Right.
It was just unbelievable. I succeeded to talk to him number of times, but the last time when I come, I have seen the train leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I left with food that I brought to him and all kinds of things, and it was I feel very bad, because I feel glad maybe I won't see him again.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you think you'd ever see him again?
It may be, yeah. I could.
So you weren't sure, and I just have to imagine, and going back to have to tell your mother that.
Not only this, but this moment I felt that I am responsible for entire family. I was 15 years old, and even my mother was fantastic, but still, she needed some help, and more than help, And I was the one.
And you were about, I think, 15 at that time?
15 years, yeah. 15 years old.
Soon afterwards, after that, and I'm not exactly sure how long, you may have to help me with my chronology here again, but the Germans pushed the Soviets out of Lithuania pretty soon after that, correct?
Yes, that's true.
And so you recall seeing the German bombers flying overhead and German soldiers on motorcycles. And you said they were seen as liberators, weren't they, by a lot of the people? I
must say that people don't realize that Germans has a lot of people that help them in different nationalities. I'm sorry to tell you, but I have seen many of this, And one of them have been in Lithuania, in Vilnius. The first thing what I have seen, it was first day of German occupation. I have seen through the window. I looked through the window and I didn't expect anything, but what I have seen, it was just shocking to me. I have seen group of old Jewish people, probably religious, I would say, because they were kind of certain clothing, etc. They have been probably like 50 or 60 of them, and surrounded by civilian Lithuanians with Lithuanian flags, with having guns on them, pointed guns. And this group passed through my window. This was shocking for me. I never realized that the Lithuanians would be so much in the same situation like Nazis,
Mm.
But I cannot say that all Lithuanians have been like this, but the ones that I have seen.
Right, and so you see that the Germans come and they're doing these horrible things. The Lithuanians are following suit, and certainly not putting up any resistance. And you mention what you call the Jewish optimism of many of the Jews that your family members that you knew during the time. That even when the Germans started making people go into the ghettos, into the ghetto that they constructed, many people just couldn't believe that these horrible things were going to continue.
Absolutely, because who can think about things like this? Absolutely. And it happened rather very soon that they started mass killings.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place named next to the Vilna named Ponari. This was kind of wooded place, and they sent younger Jewish people to dig holes, and they didn't know what for. But they knew very soon later, because then the same people that dig this, they had been shot by Nazis and put in the graves. And then, the same places they killed they took people from the city, Jewish people, to Ponari, so many thousand each day, and they killed them in this place. But I tell you what, look, I didn't wait until this will happen a long time. After a couple days, we decided we should run away from Vilna, because this was too dangerous.
And that was my next question. A lot of a lot of Jews went willingly into the ghetto, and even your mother considered that very strongly, and for a time,
one time,
right?
Yeah.
And I think she had almost won you over, but then you decided not to. What held you back?
Well, I just have seen what I've seen, so I figure there's no place for us to go to the ghetto.
Right.
To go to ghetto means to be killed.
And what was the kind of what made many Jews decide to go willingly, do you think?
Because Jewish people are very optimistic, period, So this was against them, but that's how they are.
While later on, while posing as Polish Christians, you were a member of the Polish underground.
Yes, with mother.
Right. And what were some of your responsibilities there? What kind of stuff were you doing in connection with that group?
In connection with the group? Okay, they teach me how to use a machine gun. Honestly, there was I think it was Beretta or something like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was kind of round thing with plenty of ammunition. It was kind of heavy. But I was quite good in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even a lot of the I don't think any of the other members of the underground knew that you were Jewish, did they?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If they will know, I won't be here talking to you.
Mm.
Because let me tell you something. The Poles didn't kill Jews, but they've been not very sympathetic. Some of them. No, I don't say everybody, and they could always tell it to somebody else about it, and there won't be not long time alive. Being. No, absolutely no.
Right. And even some of the people that did help you and your family while all this was going on. The name escapes me, but you stayed at a farm somewhere in there with the family with a couple daughters, and they kept you for a while. But even then, they charged you more than they said they would for the rent, and so it was even people that were helping you drove a hard bargain.
Of course, they used the situation. The place, the name I remember was Bukishki. It was not very far from Vilna. We have been there probably 3 weeks with him, or maybe a little less, maybe 2.5 weeks. And eventually we moved from this place.
Mm-hmm. And I think you returned later, and they had used your stuff and wouldn't give it back, would they?
Yeah, they have been shocked to see us coming. They figured out nobody will bother them, and they kept all of the things that we left. But it was not so. We just took back things, Right. But they've been very unhappy. I
bet. Now, as we mentioned, your physical appearance and the papers that you had, changing your surname, that seemed to make you pretty comfortable being on the street without being afraid that somebody would just suspect you being Jewish from looking at you. Is that accurate?
Well, I actually, if you mention street, you kind of implies that we have been in town, But it was not the town. It was all the time we have been in countryside,
Mm-hmm.
So not many people kind of meet us,
Right.
But the one, of course, in being underground, we have a lot of people that have been in underground and they knew us. And this was basically the group of people that we knew, and they knew us.
So but you were pretty comfortable being around them.
Yes.
Because they had no reason to suspect you being Jewish.
Yeah, it was something that we should also play kind of game, like to be Poles that we haven't been actually. I was every Sunday I went to church every Sunday, and all of these holidays, Christian holidays, we always took part in the Christian holidays, and have been invited by people for dinners, etc., etc. So we have been very comfortable because they never knew who we are.
Right. And so you got quite good, or at least good enough, at putting on that appearance. One thing that you talk about in the book making you quite uncomfortable, though, was the prospect of someone discovering that you were circumcised, which would give away the entire.
You are very right.
Right, and there was the threat of being examined by a doctor. There was you talk about a bathhouse, a public bathhouse that was being constructed. And tell us a little bit about the threat that the bathhouse posed, and then how that threat was eventually eliminated.
Well, I am so happy that you read this book, because when I'm talking about it, I don't go to details like this, but this is great, because people don't realize these things. That something like bathhouse could kill you. I couldn't. When they decided about bathtubs, I was in panic. But what happened next day? The bathhouse burned down.
It burned down.
So just like God.
I was going to ask, did you see the hand of God?
Yeah,
there?
I said, hand of God, it just burned down, But definitely you are very right. The matter of circumcision, it was actually the only tangible item that could finish me. Because if they will check it, and I tell you something else, we have seen exactly, they brought one time to the town group of people, and one guy was a doctor, and from not very far from this place, and they said that he's Paul, but they figure out that he's not Paul, and they check on him, and he was circumcised, and they kill him.
So that was a very present danger, for sure.
Yeah.
You mention your faith in God in this book quite a few times as a sustaining force.
Yeah.
It almost sounded to me like your faith grew while fighting for survival. Is that accurate?
If I facing grew, you said?
Well,
I don't know what it is, grew.
Right. You didn't say this, word for word, but from what you said about asking God for help and that sort of thing in the book, it almost sounded to me like your belief in God, your faith in God, increased as you went on this journey. Is that
absolutely
accurate?
Yes? Because who could survive without extra help? And God was available, every time. So of course. That I believe in God very much every day. I pray. I never pray so much like then.
I'm sure. Yeah. Sure, there was a lot of praying going on.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Now, I hope that our listeners will take the opportunity to read this book. I really enjoyed it. We've only got 30 minutes of time here, and there's a lot more stuff that I'd like to ask you about. But I want to kind of skip to the end. And at the end of the book, you finally, this isn't the very end, but you return to WUOG.
To WUOG.
Which I'm working on it. Where the book began. And you try to pick up the bits and pieces of your former life.
Yeah. And
there wasn't much left. What was that like?
I tell you, this was a very, very unusual situation, When we come back to our apartment. It was we have been living in very beautiful big apartment because we have been well-to-do, and we couldn't get to inside because there have been other people there. So it took us a lot of commotion, a lot of work in order to come inside, and the other people left, But when they left, they took all paintings with them. And all of these valuable items. But what was the nice part that are the people that work for us, they brought us many things that they knew that we can use it after we come back, you see. So they've been nice. For me, the books that they brought back, this was the most valuable. But they also brought some pictures, So we have, one lady brought big card with pictures. It was hundreds of different pictures, and I still have them.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
That's great.
So it was plus and minus, But it was after so many years, we just could sleep in our old bed.
And then shortly after that, you hear that your father, who you had last seen, 5 or 6, I guess, years ago. And didn't know, what what his fate had been, you find out that he's alive in the then British Mandate of Palestine. And then you eventually are reunited with him in 1946.
Yes, you're right.
Had you given up hope of seeing him again?
Oh, not really. But I learned, I was very proud of my father because he was, during World War II, he joined army, and he was a Polish army that was not in Poland, of course, because Poland was occupation, beyond borders of Poland, and he took part in World War II, and I was very proud of it.
And then that's kind of where the book ends, with you and your family getting to the land of Israel.
Yes.
And then I'm not exactly sure how long, but I know you lived there in Israel for a while. And this is probably some stuff I should have gotten to at the beginning when I was introducing you, but you've got a degree from Tel Aviv University in economics. You fought in the Israeli War of Independence in the Israeli army. So you've had a lot going on, a very, very full life.
I also was fighting in the Sinai War.
In the Sinai War also?
Yeah, Sinai
wow.
War. And then I have seen the Israeli Sherman tanks, that I haven't seen before, because we didn't have any. But at Sinai War we have Sherman tanks. And I haven't seen any Egyptians. They all ran away ahead of us. We never seen them.
Wow. And then eventually, you live in Israel for a while, and then eventually you end up in the U.S.
Yes.
What made you decide to come to America?
I was married then to a wife that she was MD, medical doctor, and she tried to expand her knowledge in psychiatry, and we got a position in Cleveland, Ohio, in Psychiatric Institute, So that's the reason that we come to United States.
Mm-hmm. And then you moved around a bit, I think Cleveland, Savannah, and maybe some others, but now here.
No, basically you're right. Savannah was like 30 years.
Okay, 30 years in Savannah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then to Athens. And
Yeah.
I think you've been here, you said, for 15 years or so.
Yeah,
Is that
15
correct?
years, yes.
Wow. Well, Athens is certainly, better off for having you here. We've got only a couple more minutes. I wanted to quickly ask you
Yes.
about, you sent a copy of this book to President Obama,
Oh, yeah.
and he responded.
Oh, very nicely. I tell you, listen, if you look on Twitter, George Dynin Twitter,
Okay.
they shows this letter of Obama. I tell you, it was a beautiful letter. Beautiful.
Well, I will certainly look that up,
Yeah.
and I encourage all our listeners to as well. Any chance of another book anytime soon, Mr. Dynin?
Well, I have a lot of material, but I first should finish this deal. This is so much work, you wouldn't believe it, there's different... I should write here, I should write there, call here, call there.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing what I am pleased that I don't need to travel to talk. You see, I can come here and talk to you. That's fantastic.
Right. Well, I'm speaking with local Holocaust survivor and author Mr. George Dynin, who's been very gracious to join me today. Unfortunately, we're about to be out of time, but Mr. Dynin, I just want to thank you so much for coming in today.
You're very welcome. And I spoke already one time to the students here in the university. It was a number of years before, yes. Maybe a couple times I spoke.
Well, I hope that one of my classes might have you at some point. That would be something that I would look forward to. Maybe we can arrange that. But unfortunately, we're out of time. I could ask questions for another 3 hours, I'm sure. But we've got sports coming up next, so we're going to have to bring it to a close. Once again, thank you for coming in. I encourage all the listeners out there. I read the whole book, and it was great. And I encourage everybody to do the same. It's a very unique perspective on a difficult time. So thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week, Thursday, every Thursday, 4:30 to 5. Hope to see you back here then. Sports is up next.
Thank you.